Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, we're going to slow stitch an abstract pattern. Now, don't get intimidated by the idea of an abstract pattern. I know for myself, it took many years before I could really appreciate abstract art. And once I started appreciating it, I couldn't stop. I enjoy creating abstract art and looking at abstract art. Now, most of my abstract art is done with paintings or mixed media, collage, and this type of thing. But I wanted to incorporate fabric into my work, and strictly fabric, so there's no paint involved in these particular examples. Of course, you can always add that, and maybe at a later date we will. But for today, I wanted to just dip my toe into creating abstract art with fabric and stitches. I created a very simple prompt. It's one that anyone can do, and then you just play around with the design. You can make it elaborate or very basic, just as I did. The idea is to create something unique, something you enjoy creating, and just look for a pleasing color scheme. It can be bright and happy, or muted and earth tone, or even a combination. That's completely up to you. The idea is to make it a little intuitive, a little spontaneous, and definitely unpredictable. So let me show you my process. So for using abstracts, there's lots of different ways to do it. You can be intuitive, you can just be free-flowing. It's really up to you as the creator, the artist in this piece. We're going to set some parameters, and that'll help create our piece, and that restraint will help us focus. So we're going to use 3 pieces of fabric. They don't have to be solid fabrics or cotton fabrics. They can be lace. They can be wrappers of some sort. You can use any 3 pieces of substrate, i.e. fabric, in your work, and then you're going to do some stitching. Now you're going to stitch down the pieces that you create, and then you'll add 1 stitched element to it. It's kind of a simple and a way to tiptoe into creating abstract work in your slow stitching. Usually with abstract, it's painting or mixed media or collage or something, and I think it's kind of interesting to do it with fabric. Now, to further along my restraint, I chose 2 greens and then a color opposite of it on the color wheel, this red. But I took some liberties, so this red has some gold in it. I have a solid green, and then this beautiful marbled green. It's kind of just a very interesting pattern, and the combination is quite lovely. So I have my pieces. These are all fabric scraps, and now I'm going to start by cutting them down to size and to make shapes with them. And I'm not going to make anything really complicated. I'm just going to go with whatever shape I want to create here. I happen to like rounded shapes, so I'll create a rounded shape. Doesn't even have to be a circle, just have some rounded edges to it. Maybe an ellipse, kidney-shaped piece. So I have 1 shape here. Then I'll go with another green. Figure out how I want to do that. Maybe I'll make something a little narrower and longer. Again, I'm going to stick with those rounded edges, but you don't have to. This is where you create something unique to your piece. Come back in and trim any of the sides. You might even have leftover fabric scraps that are already cut to the shape that will work for you. So I'm just going to leave that there like this. And now for this, I want something just to offset it. So I'll cut a smaller piece. The red is quite bold. Yeah, I think I like that. I'll kind of fold it up. Create a little shape here. And because all these shapes are solid, I think I'll use this shape. So I went to all the trouble of creating a little shape, but I think I'm going to use this shape. I have my rounded shape here and a straight shape. And now I want to just figure out how I want to do this. I can even change my shapes further. Oh, that's looking a little obscene. Let me change that a little. Turn this a little bit this way, actually. So yeah, I like that placement. Remove my scraps. And now I'll just pin it down, and with coordinating colors, I'm just going to make very tiny stitches to hold each of my shapes in place. So for the red, I'll use red, and then I'll just use green, and I'm just going to stitch around the perimeter. These stitches are not going to be decorative. They're strictly going to be utilitarian to hold my piece in place. To that end, I have 3 strands of green. Doesn't have to match my fabric, but it's very close to it. And I'll just make some little stitches all the way around. You can use any type of stitch you want. I'm going to use a running stitch. So now I finished stitching all the way around the pieces, and because this piece was an open piece, it had 2 sides, the outer perimeter and the inner perimeter. So I had to stitch around both of those shapes. Now, just a quick word about abstract is because when you're dealing with abstract art, what you notice and what you are drawn to are the things that are interesting. And that could be something as simple as different shapes or a combination of things as well. It could be the different patterns, the way they reflect off each other and the way they complement each other, the way this is open and the way these are closed. So that contrast is what's appealing. Each piece of abstract art is going to be different, and that's the kind of the beauty of it, is because you're not looking at a photograph and it's not expected. There are really unexpected elements. So you can leave this piece here if you wanted, but for this particular piece of abstract art, the prompt is to use additional stitching, a stitched element, in addition to what we use to hold it down. So I'm going to just take some yellow thread, kind of some gold. It'll pick up the gold from that red fabric. And now I want to figure out what I want to do. Right now the eye is kind of drawn in this little triangle shape where I'm looking at the red and this kidney shaped piece and this. So something unexpected might be a way to pull the eye around it further and create a border that encapsulates it. Or maybe some lines. So it's really interesting to figure that out. I might want to play with this open space, maybe do a diagonal line across. I kind of like that idea. So I think I'll start here and just stitch like almost a Z, an abstract Z shape. So I can just stitch any type of stitch I want. I think I'm going to do just maybe a back stitch or even a straight stitch. And I'll make that shape. I'm crossing over from the background across my piece, or I can even go underneath it. The beauty of stitching and fabric is I can just continue that through here. So maybe I'll do that. Abstract creation is a lot of what ifs. And you take chances. And if they don't work, well, you could pull out stitches and start again, or you can keep it the way it is and rework it further. You can make it work, or you can learn from it, what really didn't work. So that's kind of interesting. Now I want to start my progression down. So I'll just drop below it, and I'll start my line here. Again, just with some straight stitches. And I'm using this to direct the eye. So the eye is following that yellow line. That line, not only is it yellow, but it is a totally different formation, a totally different shape and element than what was there already. And now I can decide if I want to stitch underneath that red shape again or stitch right over it. I think I want to come over it. It's unexpected. Over here, we went underneath it. This kind of is implying just a lot of movement. And again, stitch over here. And I want to bring this line a little further. I started here, so I think I want to bring it a little further. I don't have to, but these are my what ifs. What am I doing here? What if I did this? What if I did that? And that's the beauty of abstract art, particularly for the creator, is what can I do that'll make this interesting? And now I'm going to bring my line across. Start here. And come across. If I wanted to, I could make 2 thicknesses of the lines, or I can continue with it further. But I'm always looking at it and then reassessing. I do want to continue this further. I think it'll help ground it a little. Maybe just a few more stitches. Yeah, I like the way that looks. I'll come over here and knot it on the back. Show you the stitching on the back from the little stitches I made to hold down the shapes. So I used 2 threads for the red. You can see 1 thread for the yellow, 1 thread for the green. And then I have my abstract shape. Now let me show you an additional design with this prompt. I have my 3 shapes and then 1 little bout of stitching. So I incorporated the color, I echoed the color and repeated it. I have 2 patterns and a solid piece. And so there's a lot of contrast with this piece and a lot of unexpectedness. Typically the complementary color of purple would be yellow, but I thought the orange would be a little unpredictable. You can really go to town and have a lot of fun making these abstract pieces, and you can take it as far as you want. You don't have to stop here. But for this prompt, I think this is a good way to ease into abstract slow stitching. So that's how I start my abstract piece. I had a simple prompt, and that helped me. It guided me along the way so that I didn't get overwhelmed with decisions. I just created the 3 shapes, I added the stitching, and I have a very basic prompt. Now, basic doesn't mean it's boring. Actually, it can mean anything but that. I particularly find some of the simpler works to be really intriguing. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Please consider becoming a member of my channel, where I give insider information, extra tips, and even some additional videos. Thanks for joining me today.